Alright, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be covering trading edge, and really there's two main types of edges that you can have, or you could also have a combination of the two. But it's important to understand what your edge is in the market. If you can't explain what your edge is, then you're pretty much just guessing and gambling, and your probability of success is going to be really low. So it's important to understand, what's actually causing your success in the market. So let's get into the first one here, which is basically if you enter a trade and your probability of success is higher than 50%, there's an edge there. And you can obtain this type of edge by utilizing stuff like patterns, supply and demand, momentum breakouts, and extension moves. And it's pretty simple to understand why this would work, right? If you're winning more than half of your trades, there's a good chance you're going to be profitable. And I'm going to do a demonstration here to show you guys how this works. And the reason I'm going to show you guys is not because I don't think you guys understand how probability edge works, but because it's important to understand one key thing, and that is that you don't know if your next trade is going to be a winner or not. Because even if you have a higher chance than 50% of being right, you don't know whether that next trade or the next series of trades are going to be the ones that are the winners or the losers in that statistic, which is going to be important when we explain a couple of things later on. But I'll show you guys a demonstration so you guys can better understand what I'm talking about. So we're going to be using RNG, which is a random number generator. And we're going to say that if we get 1 to 7, that's a win. And if we get 8 to 10, that's a loss. And we're going to be keeping track of them right here. So let's generate our first number. That's a 10. So that's a loss. And we're going to be doing 10 of these. So second one, another loss. And again, think of this as any trade that you put on. You don't know if the next one's going to be a winner now, but you know that in the long run, you should have more winners than losers. So you can see here, even though our first two are losers, over the next trades, we should have more wins than losses. So let's generate the next one, another loss. Okay, here we finally have our first winner. And you can see that that's the thing that can happen, that you can have a series of losses. Like we just had 3 losses, even though our chance of success is 70%. And so some people might get shaken up by that. Like they take 3 trades and they're all losers. And then suddenly they're questioning whether the strategy works. But they need to understand that we need to apply the law of large numbers, which basically says that we need a large enough sample in order to assess whether or not our strategy is actually working or not. Because, if we have 3 losers in a row, that might worry you. But in actuality, in the bigger picture, it's completely statistically okay, right? It's like it's within the parameters of what a winning strategy can be. So let's generate the next one. Here we go. Another winner, a winner, another winner, a winner. So we have 7. Let's do 3 more. Another winner, a winner. Okay, we have 10 now. So here with the sample size, you see that even though our first 3 were all losers, and you probably would have started doubting your strategy, in the long run, once we have a large enough sample of 10 trades, you're going to see that we're going to win because we have a 70% chance of winning. And that's why I wanted to show you guys that, so you can see that we don't know whether the next trade is going to be a winner or not, but we have faith that in the long run, within 10, 50, 100 trades, we're going to have more winners than losers. So that's the first type of edge. The second type of edge comes with risk reward. Basically, your wins are always going to be larger than your losses. And this can be with a bunch of different ratios. You can have a 2-to-1, a 3-to-1, a 4-to-1, the 10-to-1. And obviously, the more favorable it is, the smaller amount of wins you need in order to cover your losses. And this one's, again, pretty simple to understand. When you take trades, you're going to know right away if you're right or wrong. But when you're wrong, you're only going to be wrong a small amount. But then when you're right, you're going to end up getting a lot more of the move, which is going to give you that edge in the long run, because your wins, one win is going to be able to cover 3 losses. One win is going to be able to cover 4 losses. And that's where you don't really even need to have a probability edge, because your wins are that big. So if you have a 4-to-1 risk reward, you can end up having a 40% win rate, and you could still be very profitable in the long run. But the very, very important thing with this lesson, and with any probability, doesn't matter if you have a risk reward edge or a probability edge, the requirements are that you have consistency. Because again, like we mentioned earlier, and we demonstrated with the RNG, you don't know whether that next trade is going to be the next winner or the next loser, but you still have to put on that trade, and you have to do it with consistency in sizing, with consistency in stop losses. You have to follow your plan, with consistency in taking trades when your setup triggers, with consistency in not hesitating to put on a trade, and with consistency in letting the trade work out, right? Because if you take this trade and then you take profits here, you're not letting your edge work, which is why it's important to understand what your edge is. Because if you understand that your edge is risk reward, it wouldn't make sense to take profits here, because you understand that that's not helping you. Because if you only have a 101, then you have to rely on a probability edge. And again, talking about the consistency, it's important to always have consistent sizing, because again, you don't know if that next trade is going to be a winner or loser. So if you start guessing like, okay, I'm going to size up bigger on this next trade because I have a feeling it's going to be a winner. Okay, what if it ends up being a loser? And what if you end up sizing smaller on a trade that you think is going to be a loser, or that it has a less probability, and then it ends up being a winner? So then that results in stuff like this. Look, I'll show you guys. You take a $100 loss, and then you take a $300 loss, and then you take a $200 win, and then you take a $500 win, and then a $100 win, and then a $2,000 loss. If you go back and you review your trades and this is what it looks like, that is a big red flag. That's something you don't want to see, because again, like, there's no consistency here. It'd be much better if you saw something like this, where -200, -200, +200, +200, maybe +300, and then down 200. Something like this. Something like this is much better, because you have consistency, and you need that consistency. You can't be altering your sizing, because again, you don't know whether that next trade is going to be a winner or not. That's a big fault that some traders can have, where they think that their edge comes in knowing what the market's going to do. But as we just demonstrated, that's not where our edge comes from in the market. Our edge, or our job as traders, is not to predict what's going to happen next. That's not how we make money. The way we make money is because we have these two types of edges. We have a probability edge, or we have a risk reward edge. And the only way those are able to function correctly is if we apply consistency. If you think your job as a trader is to predict what's going to happen next, then you're going to start doing stuff like this, where you're sizing up more on trades that you think you know what's going to happen next, and that's just going to result in this, because it's randomness. You need a system in place so you can get results like this, which in the long run are going to give you an edge. And obviously, very clear, you have to take your stop losses. If you're not taking your stop losses, it's going to be hard to get a good risk reward. Even if you have a 70% win rate, but you don't control your losses, then it doesn't matter if you have 70 winners. Like, you can have +200, +200, +200. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins in a row, and then all of a sudden you do this because you didn't follow your stop loss. So even though you had, a really good win rate here, that one loss is gonna wipe you out. So you gotta follow your stop losses. Next thing that's really important that some people don't realize is taking trades when your setup triggers. Because again, I know I sound like a broken record here because I've repeated this so many times, but you don't know whether or not that next trade is going to be a winner or not. So every time your setup appears, you got to take it without hesitation. You got to just take it. You've done the homework and you've studied your setup and you understand that it works, right? And for that reason, when that setup shows up, you got to take it. And you can't let your market bias or your own personal prediction of what's going to happen next influence that, because, even if I have, and this is something that I personally have to work on as well, even if I have an overall short bias on the market, like I think, inflation's out of the roof. We got this tension going on in Ukraine. We got all this stuff going on, and I have a short bias on the market, but then I see a bullish setup like pop out and screaming to me. I got to take that trade. Even if I don't agree with, the market going up, I still have to take it. I can't let my own personal views or personal biases influence whether or not I'm going to take a trade, because that's going to end up skewing my results, and it's it's going to affect my edge. And again, we don't have edge as traders because of our predictions of what we think are going to happen. We have an edge in the market because of our systems in place that give us that edge, that guarantee that in the long run we're going to make money. So you got to take your trades when your setup triggers, and you can't hesitate because of a personal bias or you don't agree with your setup. You've already done the homework on your setup. You've already back tested it. You understand that it works. You just got to take it. And the last thing is you got to let your trade work, right? Like we mentioned earlier, you can't just get afraid when you're in a winning trade and then take it too short, and then it ends up affecting your edge. So you got to let the trade work. And the reason we got to do this stuff is because the future is unknown. The only way to find consistency is to have a system and follow it. If you don't have a system, you're just guessing and gambling. And if you have a system but you don't follow it, you've done the homework but you're just not turning it in and you're not getting the credit for it. So what's the point? There's no point. You're back to square one. So you got to really focus on the consistency. Well, first, obviously, the first step is establishing an edge and finding a setup that works for you. And once you've proven that it works with small size, you can start sizing up and then you focus on consistency. But yeah, that's about it for this lesson. Hopefully that helped you guys out. If you did enjoy the video or you were able to learn something from it, make sure to leave a like on the video. Helps out the channel a lot and it helps us reach more traders. So yeah, if you found it helpful, make sure to leave a like, maybe even possibly share it to other traders that you know so it can help them out as well. But anyways, I'm gonna leave you guys there. Thank you so much for watching the video. But other than that, it's been me Zero and I'm out. Peace.